Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, May 20th. Apologies for missing an episode yesterday. We'll get back in the saddle for the rest of this week. And I got a really good question that I'm excited to get to from, I don't know how I'm supposed to say this name. Is it supposed to be said with a ridiculous Yinzer accent? Pandamat. Pandam. I don't know. P-A-H-N-D-E-M-A-H-T. 72412. So I'm guessing this is supposed to be said in a ridiculous Yinzer accent. He says, and this is, my guess is in response to me saying repeatedly over the last few weeks and months that the Steelers kind of aren't going anywhere in 2025. And he says, are the Steelers going into this season knowing they aren't going anywhere? And if so, why is Aaron Rodgers being pursued? Why is Cam Hayward going on the record saying they aren't punting on the season? Yeah, I think this is confusing and difficult to understand for a lot of people. So I think this is a very good question. The Steelers are not going to be a very good team in 2025. They were a good team in 2024. What held them back from being a better team than they were in 2024 was a lack of talent at offensive skill positions, mostly quarterback and wide receiver. You could include tackle in there as well. They think they possibly have the answer for tackle in Troy Fautanu. We'll see. They're going to try it out. They don't have an answer wide receiver for this year, and they're not likely to have one. And they don't have an answer for quarterback this year, and they're not likely to have one. And they knew coming into this offseason that they were not likely to have one. There was not one available to them. So the first part of the process this offseason was, okay, how do the Steelers figure out quarterback? And the answer is they can't this year. Okay, so then how do we make sure we're going to figure out quarterback in 2026? Tanking would be a way to figure out quarterback in 2026. That is not the way the Steelers came up with. What the Steelers came up with is, look, we have this situation where if we let Dan Moore go because we're trying to fix the tackle situation, we let Russell Wilson and Justin Fields go, we're going to get all these comp picks. And we can use those comp picks to trade up into what is a deep group of quarterbacks at the top of the 2026 class. And that's how we can get our quarterback. That's how they're solving the quarterback. So that doesn't mean they came up with this plan to avoid having to be bad to get a quarterback. They don't want to be bad. They want to be as good as they can be. First of all, that's just who the Pittsburgh Steelers are and what they're all about. Second of all, they were a good team. I understand the fan base is frustrated by the repeated first-round wildcard exits, but there are 20 NFL teams that would kill for the Steelers' last 3 seasons. They're a good team. They had a great defense. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can magically capture something from 5 years ago. I don't know. But the reason they're going after Aaron Rodgers, the reason Cam Hayward says they're not punting on the season is they're not punting on the season. They just did not have available to them the long-term big picture fixes at the most important positions where they had issues coming into this year. So they can't fix their problem. They had a problem they couldn't fix. They're doing everything they can to, as we said, and somebody brought up, quarterback-proof this offense and try to win as many games as they can because they've amassed the picks they need to move up to go get their quarterback next year through another means. So yeah, they're going to go try to get Aaron Rodgers. They're going to go do what they can do. Nothing they're doing this offseason is going to harm the pursuit of that quarterback and those other offensive skill players, wide receiver, in the future. They're not doing anything that's going to take away from that. They're going to do everything else they can. So that's why they didn't make a big splash of the free agent signing, because that would have taken away from the comp picks. So outside of hurting their chances at a quarterback in the future, they're going to try to do what they can to make this team as good as they can. That's what they're going after Aaron Rodgers. It was like one time my car got wrecked. Somebody hit it in a parking lot, and I wanted a new car. I had to get a new car, but I wanted the car I had. I knew what I wanted. Okay, I already owned it. I wanted it again, but I couldn't find it anywhere. That car wasn't available at that price in Pittsburgh, so you have to go a while before it was like 9 months before I was able to find my car. Well, what did I do for 9 months? I didn't buy a different car because that would have prevented me from getting what I wanted in the future. I just, I had to take the bus for a couple weeks, you know, borrow my wife's car for a month or two until I could get what I wanted. That's what the Steelers are doing. They know what they want. They have what they need to get what they want. They just can't get it until next year. They're going to do what they can to not be embarrassed by their circumstances between now and then. They're going to try to do right by the players on the team. They're going to try to compete and be competitive for their fans. At the end of the day, they're probably not going to get there. They understand that. They do not have a good enough team to compete with the best teams in the AFC. They still have a good team. They're still probably a playoff team, especially if they get Rodgers. But they're not a contender, and they're probably not going to be. And hey, they haven't been a contender for years, so that shouldn't be anything really new to the situation. So I hope that I was able to explain what's happening here, why at the same time the Steelers are making so many moves that are play for next year moves, but also at the same time saying they're not punting on the season, because they're absolutely not, nor will they ever, by the way. You can bet on that. Is that as long as a Rooney owns the Steelers, they're not tanking. They're not throwing away a season. They don't believe in it. They're never going to do it. And by the way, that never works in the NFL. No team is ever bad on purpose and then has success from being bad on purpose on the other side of that. It just doesn't work. Nobody's ever done it successfully. So I don't see any reason why the Steelers should think they should be the first. That's all I got for this morning. More with me and Smitty, and hopefully a special guest. Fingers crossed. Still working on that, but hoping to have that this afternoon at 6 on Steelers Afternoon Drive. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Morning Rush, Afternoon Drive, all the rest of the stuff we got going on. OTAs coming up next week. We'll have even more. So stay tuned for that as well. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, enjoy.